All right, Jeff Rolland.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm good. Are you a native of Columbus?
I am not. I am from Northeast Ohio. Actually, grew up in Strongsville, Ohio.
Okay, well then we can't do this.
I know.
Because it's supposed to be Columbus. How long have you been in Columbus?
I've been in Columbus since I came down here from when I went to Ohio State. So I've been here going on 7 years.
Okay, so you went to Ohio State and you majored in
Computer science.
Okay.
So
How's that going?
it was great. I enjoyed the whole experience. I think it was very mathematical. It was very techy. I've always had inclination towards tech. I'm actually pursuing my master's now in organizational leadership. So I'm working full time as a software developer, kind of tech lead, as well as doing my master's as well.
That's cool. What you're doing your master's in the same field?
Organizational leadership. So completely different. So it actually combines with a lot of the coaching stuff I do.
Okay.
Everything's kind of integrating together. That was kind of my big goal of 2020 is to have more cohesiveness among coaching and other activities and also tech. So I'm bringing it all together.
How did you get into coaching?
Yes.
Pull that microphone a little bit closer.
Bring this a little closer to me.
There we go.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah. So I always observed the world around me and really was inspired by people who could make meaningful change.
Okay.
And I always felt a little untraditional, right? I think everyone has that voice in them that's like, I want to fit in with the crowd, but I also want to be my own thing, right? And I found it funny. I was like, if you look at online on horoscopes and people doing astrology, how there's millions and millions of views for these things every day. How, people write horoscopes and they're getting, 2, 3, 4 million views. And I'm like, what is it about this that people are grappling to? And what is this void that no one knows anything about that makes people feel safe? And I really discovered that it was people are identifying parts of themselves in something bigger than them. And that helps kind of fuel them forward, kind of making sure that at the end of the day, there's no really right or wrong. They're kind of on the right path, right? People come to me and they're like, I want to be on the path, Jeff. Okay. And so coaching, I was an astrology apprentice. When I was in my undergrad, I submitted writing to one of the top world-renowned astrologers, Deborah Silverman, and she had a whole astrology program. So
what was her name?
Deborah Silverman.
And she's local?
No, she's out of Denver.
Okay.
Actually, so she's in Colorado and Hawaii, but she had her international astrology school.
All right.
And so I submitted my writing to her. I see the lights flicker. I ended up submitting my writing to her, and she called me and she's like, who are you? I want you to do my astrology school. And so I ended up actually, studying astrology more heavily, ended up getting into tarot cards, and it all kind of was just supernatural. I actually ended up, beginning to give readings, studying further with Deborah, and doing readings to my friends. And then it kind of took it a little bit more professionally after that.
Okay. And that when you started getting interested, how old do you think you were? In the metaphysical.
Oh yeah, I'd say. I mean, I'm a kid looking in. 9, 10 years old. You're looking in the newspaper at horoscopes, right? You're seeing that there. You're seeing. Zodiac signs have always been around. You're always hearing, oh, I'm October, so I'm a Libra, right? It's kind of something that's common knowledge. People usually know what they are.
Yeah.
They may not know about it, and so. I think at a young age, I was always fascinated with it. People who were. Every time I heard tarot or I saw things, I was like, this sounds like something for me. This sounds different. It sounds different. And that was sometimes the most important thing is it's different.
Yeah.
I'm so bored of the mundane. I mean, I'm always going to switch it up on you. I hate going through the same motions every day. I think we lack self-awareness conversations in our daily life.
So do you think there's something about just like the energy about this that is attracted to you? Do you think there's something that can benefit everybody out of this? Or
Oh, absolutely. I call myself a storyteller. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, am I here to predict things for you? No. Am I here to, define what your future and your relationships and your money is going to look like? I'm not. I'm a storyteller, and I strongly believe that tarot, astrology, and other tools give you the archetype. Right? If you look around the zodiac, almost everything you can identify in life falls somewhere into astrology. And so it's a systematic way for me to revisit all of those areas in my life. My career, my romance, my communication styles, everything that you can think of in life fits somewhere into the zodiac wheel or tarot. And so for me, it's a way to have these conversations and bring them to the mainstream, right? Like I was very it's very important for me for people to have these self-awareness conversations. We go so fast. I mean, life goes so fast. I mean, how often are you having a conversation one-on-one about, what are my different communication styles with people? And, how is my career and family today, right? You really don't have those systematic conversations. And I find that people just want validation in it. They feel like they're being swept away with the culture and the collective. And this helps you come to a sense of identity, to tell a better story. There's so many ways you can tell your story. We're surrounded by, narratives of right and wrong, good and evil. Oh, you can't post that or do this. This is wrong.
Right.
And soulfully, I believe that there is no right and wrong. I believe that, and astrology kind of speaks to that you kind of signed up for a big sleepover here on Earth.
Yeah.
Now,
when you say there is no right and wrong, are you talking about like generally or in?
I'd say it's when a lot of this work, it forces you to look on multiple planes, right? So I think as human beings, we have an ego, right? Mm-hmm. So our ego is like, yeah, I believe in this, right and wrong, right? And there's a time and a place for that. There's also a time and a place to be on the neutral ground and say, I don't know, I was just born into this world with no instructions. Who are you to tell me what truth is, right? So I believe systematically what this thing, the biggest takeaway I try to give to people is you're simultaneously holding multiple beliefs. Yeah. We live in a world where there's guilt when you're like, why can't you believe strongly in something and strongly in something else? And that's what this provides, is a net where I can hold such strong ideas together and have intelligent conversation about it.
Right.
Because there's nothing worse than somebody telling you what you believe in or what you love isn't right. And so I always say I'm writing permission slips all day. Whenever I give a tarot reading, I'm basically I'm a mirror. I'm just shining a light on something that you've been begging to get out of your system for a long time, right? You've been wanting to talk about. I mean, sometimes I say I'm a glorified therapist. I'm a mirror. I'm a storyteller. I'm here to listen to you, pull some cards, and have a guided conversation or take a look at it further. And I think we miss that aspect a lot.
So, like in your everyday life, you have a day job.
Yes.
Now, when you are with your friends or your family or your coworkers or whatever, are you constantly coming back to this and like?
You're going to laugh at me. I actually am, being in tech, I actually have a spreadsheet on almost every person I've ever met. I have a spreadsheet on meaningful qualities that they mirror back to me. Mm-hmm. And I take it and incorporate it into my toolkit, I call it. And so what I basically say is, like I may meet you and you may give off something, very creative, a very, some energy, right, that I recognize. And so I'll think about that. I'm like, I'll put that into a spreadsheet, kind of observe some patterns. And over time I go, if I have a client in front of me and I'm trying to express to them to help them unlock creativity, I need to draw upon the other people in my life.
Now, where do you get that from?
What drawing upon?
No, like, because I know horoscopes.
Yeah.
And I know a little bit of numerology.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So when you read horoscopes, okay, I'm not really talking about the one in the paper.
No, of course.
But the ones that...
Oh, like the astrology chart.
Right. Like when you're getting really deep into it.
Correct.
Is that written or is it you figure it out as the interpreter?
So, so that's a great pivot. You can go on pretty much any website. There's you can just type in astrology chart and you'll put in your birth time, location, and date. And that will generate a chart. So say, for example, you were born and the nurse went outside and took a snapshot of the sky at that exact moment.
Okay.
That would be your natal chart.
Okay.
And so you can go as complex as you want into it. So your natal chart kind of holds your energies. I call it your blueprint. So these are energies that you signed up for and you're coming over to Earth and your soul has lessons to learn and your chart can kind of help you unlock that. And then there's, transits, the moon goes through phases, things like that. Planets revolve around the sun. Again, I don't believe that the moon is affecting my life. What I believe in is, the moon is in Taurus right now. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's time to think about my finances, my security, my comfort. Where are my patterns that I want to stop and not go, right? So I use it as a map. And then I look at their direct chart and say, well, your moon in your natal chart, and I have a copy of one here, is... your moon is in Gemini. So your emotional body may be pretty airy. You may not want to get down into all the details. So it's a it's an elemental balance, it's a dance. And it's just a big blender. I bring out a lot of themes, I put them into a blender, and people tell me what they resonate with. And whatever they resonate with or what they don't, polarities are very important in this work, right? Something that you completely reject. If you look at me crazy and you're like, what are you talking about? I don't agree with this at all. That's just as important to me as something you agree with in fully, because that's the contrast, which could be work where you can grow.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of information.
Yeah, I have plenty of it.
Well, okay, just for the sake of this conversation, my birthday was last Monday.
Okay.
June 1st.
Yes. Gemini.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm a Libra. We're both air signs.
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny, you can paint a lot of things. So like Gemini represents higher thought. So it's funny that you're doing a podcast because you crave to collect people's words. Classic Gemini. Yeah. Right. And so again, and a lot of people say, oh, my sun sign doesn't describe me, or, ooh, which is fine. I think when you get to an advanced place with astrology, you're able to change hats, right? So like at this point, what astrology offers me is I'm not just in the first place of astrology is understanding yourself. Then after that, you're like, I want to be a Gemini today, right? So you can take your hat off, and I know many Geminis in my life, and I can go, well, what do they do differently than me? And then take meaningful action, right? So I'm able to hold your archetype of Gemini and integrate that with some action.
Right. So I have a question about so when you have personalities,
yes,
and different kinds of psychological aspects of those personalities. So I'm a Gemini, and I don't know if it stems from that, but what I do a lot is mimic people.
Yeah.
What is I learned about it in psychology class last year, but I know it's called something.
Oh, it's 101 cultivating a strong relationship. People like to be mirrored. Their egos like to be fed, right? So if you're mirroring people, it's a very strong survival emotional intelligence skill,
it's
right?
A connection.
Exactly. So you're mirroring them, and people like to see themselves in some, and they're like, oh, wow, I have impact.
Yeah.
With astrology, and again, with different personalities and how you're mapping those, again, I always go back to the basis of what do you resonate with now, and what do you not resonate with at all? I think there's no right or wrong, again. So if you resonate with the Gemini archetype, right, and that's great. That's a great starting point. You understand, Gemini rules communication, higher thoughts, short distance travel. So if all of those things kind of, you don't mind that. Okay, well, maybe that's your core. So now you can kind of expand to each planet, which represents something else. Like your Mars is your sexuality, your Venus is love and money. So I usually go with clients around all of their placements and say, how is your emotional body? How do you process emotions? And so it really is just an exercise of documenting what do you resonate with, what do you don't, and everything else in between.
Wow.
It's
a lot. I mean,
everything matters. Every thought, word, and action matters. And there's one thing I'm here to say, and I'll be saying that 5 times, is that whether you think it and it doesn't manifest into something, that's okay. Everything matters. My belief is that if it's here, it has reason.
Yeah.
My top belief is that my beliefs can change, right? So
Yeah.
if I feel something else, pull that out, put another one in. Because that's being authentic,
right?
Where you are on the journey in the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how a lot of people say, man, that person's stuck in their ways. And it's like, well, no, they're not. They can be influenced.
Exactly. And I always say, if people are stuck in their ways, that's an archetype. You need that contrast, right? When I have people, I keep a lot of people around that may be very contrasting against me because it helps me recognize, oh, wait, I don't want to slip into that again. Or, or that's something, it's a good representation of contrasts that you need.
So let me ask you this. Being on social media and, in particular Facebook, because that's where a lot of the conversations are. It's not like Instagram or Twitter, but on Facebook, there's a lot of conversations. And I believe that I'm somewhat of an empath.
Yes.
I really understand people. I have a lot of empathy, and I'm sympathetic to people and their feelings. And I'm finding that I can't log on right now. Mm-hmm. And it's just because it's so tiring.
Mm-hmm. I see that a lot. And to me, I get excited about that. I have lots of friends who are like, oh, I can't handle social media right now. Well, to me, that's a growth opportunity. What about your ego is it triggering? So, I always say when you're giving people abundance, you're giving from your overflow, right? That you feel so comfortable within you that you don't care if other people hold different opinions. Somewhere in your ego is probably hurt, right? Mm-hmm. That somebody could possibly, that you may care about, or has such a contrasting view. And I call that shadow work, right? It's something that it matters because it makes you feel something. So,
well, it's not necessarily that people have contrasting views. It's just that there's so much
overwhelmed by.
Well, there's so much hurt and pain and right now, and it's you can say what you want about certain things, but there's no doubt people who are hurting.
Yes.
And whether some of that pain is manifested just because of the time, or, if it's genuinely built up over, centuries.
Oh, yeah.
If you know what I mean. But it's definitely a lot of emotions going on right now. And that's what I mean by meaning tiring. I care what people think.
Right.
But that's not where I was going. It was more about just the essence of the energy.
Yeah, and I believe pain holds a purpose, right? So I don't think life is about just being happy, right? I think life is about the highs and the lows and everything else in between. Mm-hmm. Although, maybe this is just me with my rose-colored my lenses, right? But I believe that somewhere along the line, their soul signed up to be a part of a movement, to be a part of great transformation.
Yeah.
And so what I do is try to help put their story into perspective, tell them everything is temporary, because it is, and kind of give them some guiding words to give them, I'm not somebody who's going to spout positivity at you. I'm going to help you write a story that helps you fall asleep in a way that's empowering to you.
Right.
And that is always full with a lot of pain. People come to me with, family losses, big movements, things like, why, Jeff? Why is this happening? And I give them the same answer every time. I tell them, I believe somewhere down the road, your soul needed to have this lesson.
Yeah.
It sucks. You may have pain. You may have suffering, but just it's contrast. You felt great joys before, and you felt the lows.
Right.
And things will, some people get their more share of it.
Right.
And that is heavy. And I just tried to give them an outlet, which is what I use, astrology and tarot, to help express some of those unknowns that people can't even give them.
Right. And I think also that there's situations probably, and like I said, I don't know anything about all this stuff. I'm just an observer.
Yeah.
There's some situations that are deeply, deeply disturbing and are unfortunate, and it's not a lesson.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's a very unfortunate life. And, I just want to make sure that that's separate.
Oh, absolutely.
Than just your normal everyday.
Yes.
And let's do this. The stigma of tarot.
Oh, yes.
And
perfect.
The stigma of tarot and fortune telling and, spiritualism, stuff like that. The back in the day when there was the shaky tables and all that.
I struggled with that perception. I'm not going to lie, I still do, right? To me, I've really found my spot of, well, by day I'm, a project manager, tech lead, and at night I, do music and everything and coaching and tarot and astrology. I just kind of, comma this, comma that, and it all comes together. Again, I always tell people I'm very upfront. I'm here to give you a perspective. If you believe that it has self-fulfilling prophecies with it, great. And I think a big reason I think I have motivation to do this work is I feel like I'm a bridge between a lot. I call myself the woo-woo bridge, because a lot of young people in college, when I was in college and I was a resident advisor, my residents loved this. I'd be like, all right, everyone, I'm reading your charts in my room. See you tonight.
Yeah.
And I had a full room because people felt like they wanted to be a part of something else. And so I tell people, yes, at the end of the day, if you want to tell me that I'm just shuffling a bunch of cardboard pieces, I am. You're not wrong, right? But also you can give a story to each of the cards.
Okay.
And that's up to you. And just like everything else in life where you have to take ownership of it, you also have to take ownership of your story.
Right.
And whether that's taking ownership at work or in your relationships, or you're going to flip these cards and you're going to sit there and believe that this is going to hold meaning to you. So you assign that weight. When you think of people who, you assign if it's going to mean something to you. Like I flip some cards and I'm like, doesn't really mean anything to me. And I move on.
Mm-hmm. What's cool about this scenario is, unfortunately, when you think of tarot and astrology, well, specifically tarot, you think of like robes. This is just me speaking.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. I love it.
You think of robes and long flowing, whatever, and
they still believe that.
Rings and jewelry.
Well, we had a fair in Columbus, so I go to a lot of the local fairs to do readings for people, and the one I went to was called Mystics and Marvels, right? So I actually, part of the gig was you should dress up a little bit like that, right? To kind of feed the stereotype. And of course I'll put on a bow tie and get something flashy on. But at the end of the day, really it's you're assigning that value to it, just like we assign any other fact or truth we get in our life.
So that's basically kind of like a completely different thing because that's more of a style.
Yeah, you can do both. Again, I'm here to say you can believe in simultaneous truth. So if I have a client that says, I want somebody to really sit into the energy, I'm going to play that part. It's not inauthentic. I'm really going to sit there and try to meet them where they're coming from in their need, right? I have other people who don't believe in this work, right? So I have to meet them at an angle of lots of practical stuff. I have to give them, bullet points. I have to kind of go in a way because they don't believe in any of it. So I meet people across the spectrum who are like, they sit down in front of me and they're like, oh, I believe these cards mean something. And I've had people that are like, well, I'm just sitting down in front of you because I don't believe it, but I think it's going to be fun, right? So again, wherever you believe in this, I think there's a place that I can meet you halfway and at least make something meaningful.
Right. Have you ever had somebody flip just right in front of you?
Oh yeah. I actually had somebody who was like, they were an astrologer of the past, they used to do it and then they didn't believe it in anymore.
Okay.
And then they came to me like, oh, I just wanted to see how good you were. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let me give you my style.
How good you were.
Yeah. Again, in this work, that's also the stigma. People say, you need an amount of years of experience or you need this. Really, you need a passion with everything in life, right? There's people who do extraordinary things all the time without degrees, without everything, right? Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it's where you are on the journey. And so I love those people. Again, I ask for it. I always say I ask for people to be contrasting.
Yeah.
And, I'm not trying to sell you anything. That's the first and foremost. I'm not here to sell you a belief system. I'm here to help you sell yourself to you, right? I want you to believe in yourself and your story. That's the most important thing. If I throw 3,000 ideas at you, I talk about the sun, Mars, and flip cards, and you're like, I have no idea what you were saying.
Right.
But now that you think about my relationships with my family, there's something I may want to reflect on further. I won. I'm a winner because I'm cultivating and facilitating conversation that you may not be having in your life.
All right, let me ask you this, just because my brother, he's 3 years older than me, and he's really into this. He's really into, I don't know if it's how to pronounce it, but it's like the Enneagram. Enneagram.
Yeah.
What is that about?
So just like any other personality test, it's a Enneagram. You can take a test, and it basically is defining you on different spectrums. Like, do you see yourself in a room speaking up, or are you somebody who's quiet, right? Okay. Lots of subjective things. Yeah. And then at the end, it places you into a bucket of, you probably are, a 2 wing 8 or whatever. You are the peacekeeper, and again, people like those tests because just like any system, you're looking at it and you're like, I agree with these ideas. And it has put me into something of ideas I believe in. And so Enneagram, I use all of those tools. I'll use Enneagram, astrology, numerology, tarot, gene keys, but I'll also combine it with traditional project management techniques because I want you to walk away not just with a thought, but with something tangible that you can take away. And that's really important for me. It's not just, I don't want you to come and see me and say, oh, that was nice, and then walk away and I want you to look at it and go, ooh, take ownership and say, ooh, how can I stop for a minute and add something to my life?
What does that mean, take ownership? Are you saying take ownership of what you're doing, or take ownership of what you're reading?
Take ownership of your story.
Okay.
And so
explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll say that. Take ownership of your story. So when people, I want people to, when we go through, like typically if I do a chart reading, I can go around, there's 12 signs, and I can talk to them. Each of the signs represent something. So in one reading with me, I may talk about your ego, your sense of self, your money, your communication, your home and family, your true love, relationships, career, right? I'll talk about all of those things with you. I want you to own it. I want you to own the good and the bad and the ugly, right? A lot of the times and it could be societal based or how we were raised, we think that if there's something negative or bad, we need to work on ourselves. And so, we can get rid of that and be something that's a better version. Yeah. Right. And I don't really believe in that. I believe you need to integrate yourself, right? Like we all have shadow sides. We're human beings. We put, and so when I say own your story, I'm going to tell you that, as a human being, you probably will lie. You probably will make a mistake. You'll probably do a lot of those basic human things. And so I'm giving people a permission slip to be human, to take ownership of their story, to go home and say, hey, I'm going to look at how I react to other people's strong words. I'm going to look at my finances and try and understand, why am I feeling in lack here? How can I go and go out into my career and make meaningful change? And so I go into all, and the 12 signs is a great place to start. It gives me 12 big areas of life. And I basically am having you, instead of saying your story of, oh, this person did something to me, which is true. I always say there's a hint of truth in everything, that you are owning your story and saying, okay, this is what happened. This is who I am. This is where I am now. And there is no better place that I can be but in the moment, right? You can be in a better state, maybe, but this, like all you have is the now.
So like when you wake up.
Yes.
Do you like...
Here, I made it.
when you wake up, in the literal sense, when you wake up, you put your slippers on and you're walking, do you read this and just you just do like look at yourself, your own forecast, or you actually like look at like the whole big spectrum and be like, oh, there's Jim at work is going to be kind of rough today because it's
time and a place for everything. So variety is the most important thing to me. So I have like 50, 60 decks, and I have them scattered around my apartment. Yeah. And I may walk over to one. So for example, if I do a little shuffle, this is a very easy deck. It only has one word on it. So I may go over and I start my day. I flip one over. This says flow.
Okay.
Flow. So right here in this moment, no, this is not a complicated tarot card of the 7 of Cups. This is not, there's traditional tarot and also just, this is a single word, flow.
Okay.
So in that moment, I'm going to go, have I thought about how I flow through my day? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? You're having awareness.
How many words are in that deck?
This one has 78.
Okay.
And so, I have my own deck that I made that is mirrors. There's traditional, you can get any type of tarot card. You can go online and find traditional tarot decks, which are 78 cards, or you can find oracle decks, which are, there's no rules. Like this deck has like 58 cards, and it talks about moon cycles.
Okay.
And so you can get, I brought, there's different types of cards that are traditional, or they're just as simple as a single word.
So if you were to go to one of your events,
yes,
would you have a whole bunch of decks?
My whole table was just all of my decks laid out. I have people come to me and I say, what deck do you want?
How would they know? What if they don't know?
I pick one for them.
Okay.
I'll make an assumption on, it really is a natural, intuitive thing, right? Like most people they see a deck that like, ooh, that's my favorite color, or ooh, I want that deck. Almost everyone picks a deck.
So is it kind of like, if they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, my boyfriend or my girlfriend brought me here.
Yep, all the time.
Do you like, well, what are you interested in finding out? Or
in that moment right there, where if I'm already seeing, like, I'll just pick on something. So right there was, oh, my boyfriend made me come here too, you know. So I'm going to pull a relationship deck. It looks like you're already having some sort of dynamic there. So I will, any factor that I get in the first 1 minute of knowing you, I already kind of have you pegged on some things that I think would be good for you. Because the decks have different themes, right? A lot of the decks are, you know, more emotional based. They're, you know, sometimes they're, you know, so you can find a different deck that may fit the situation.
So the gist of it is you have the decks and whatever, you know, phase that they're going through or whatever, they have to touch them and they have to shuffle them.
Yeah, it depends. Again, I leave it up to, it's hard to define a world that's kind of undefined. I think if they want to shuffle it, I always ask. Sometimes I feel it where I'm like, hey, do you want to shuffle this?
Yeah.
They'll go ahead and shuffle it. Sometimes they pick a deck and I'm like, are you sure? What about that deck?
Yeah.
So I just go with a variety of what I feel called to do.
So all readers are totally individual when it comes to reading tarot.
Yeah, I'd like to say so. There are, like, if you Google, like, traditional tarot spreads, right, you can find a video that's like, okay, you have your first 78 card deck, you know, you need to put one card here, one card here, one card here, and this is, you know, the Celtic cross, right? Like, you can...
See, that's what I know.
You can like... study that, and where my niche is, sure, you want me to do Celtic cross? Great, let's do the Celtic cross.
What does that do? Well, I don't know what that does. What does it do?
It really... What is important to me is that I'm cultivating something that you're believing in.
Okay.
That's important to me. Whether it's whatever you need to have the security that you can open your heart up enough to be able to see as clearly as you can in that moment what's going on. I'm going to go down that road.
So what does it do though?
Say
we'll just do the traditional with the different people on it, like the whatever.
Yeah, there's different flavors. So say, for example, the traditional one, you can come in, there's really no rules.
But, like, what do you get at? What does the person get at? Like, you do yourself. You can do yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're flipping over cards. What does you learn how to read them, and then what does you have to interpret it yourself?
I see. So the authors, when you buy a deck, typically it comes with a guidebook.
Okay.
So either, like, if I pull any card here, you know, this is the 9 of Pentacles. So if you went and Google searched the 9 of Pentacles, you can find multiple authors' interpretation of what the 9 of Pentacles is. Typically, they do, you know, the tarot community kind of narrows in on a specific subject, like a border for it. But the author of the deck may say, you know, the 9 of Pentacles, they really focus in on one idea of it. And so typically what I do is, that's why I like different authors' perspectives and I have so many decks. Because I know that I have an interpretation. I mean, you're on multiple levels. You may have an interpretation of something. I have an interpretation. The author has an interpretation. And so you're kind of mixing all of those narratives at once, which is why it's heavy work. Because
and do you think any of it could just simply be random?
Absolutely. I think if you want to believe in the randomness, just like life, like I came into this world, I didn't ask for it, I don't think, right? I showed up. Just like, we met for this podcast. Kind of random. Or was it, right? And so what do you believe in that day? I genuinely believe that there are days I wake up and shuffle the deck that I will say, no, this means something. Like, I know that I'm going to ask that the universe or whoever out there is going to help show me a card that I need to see right now. I definitely go down that road. Just like people, send prayers out, they send thoughts your way, right? I believe in that. Other days I wake up and go, nope, this is just a deck of paper and I'm pulling an idea just like a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I think the importance of the work, the whole point is there's not one way. There's not one way to go through life. There's not one answer. There's not one career. And people have such a hard time with that. Right. I do too. Because you feel like, if I'm doing a podcast, well, I have to get this equipment. Well, I have to, edit it in this way, right? Like you're already putting boxes around yourself just based on what you grew up with. And society and what messages you've absorbed. So I use this as a safe space for you to say, if I want rules one day, great. Let's make rules. I'm going to only pull 3 cards today. If you want a day without rules, you can do that too.
So have you woken up before and you're doing a lot of waking up.
Yeah.
Have you woken up before and you flip some cards over?
Yes.
And what you originally had in mind of doing that day, you completely changed your mind because of what those cards showed you.
Absolutely. If I'm feeling like, and I think so, for example, if I may be feeling somewhere in me that I'm being too structured, right? Like, people go back and forth between polarities, right? You get feedback. You're like, wait, am I being too structured? Or, we have boundaries pushed all the time.
Yeah.
So say, for example, I pulled a card that's pulling me in a different direction. And maybe at work the last week, somebody commented that like, I was too concise or too proper. I may go, I had multiple signs here. I'm going to go with the deck today and try and break that pattern of behavior and try something new. I'm going to tell a new story today.
Wow.
And the card has helped that, right? And so it's a powerful mindset that I just use this. It's just my toolkit, right? It's a philosophy of life. Yeah. It's how you're viewing the change around you. And so absolutely, if I wake up, and sometimes I'm on work meetings. I swear, I'm on work meetings. I'm like, I'm on mute. I'm not saying anything. I'll pull a card, share. So
you unmute it. You're like, hey, guys.
Yeah, I may say some days I'm that close with it. Yeah. Some days I may not pull cards for 2-3 days, right? But like right now in this moment, right, it's exciting because what am I doing with you? I'm sharing, right? Yeah. I'm sharing my life with you. And so what has this given me in this moment? Okay, I'm sharing. This is maybe something in the future when I think of the idea of sharing. Or maybe I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, how do I share this with somebody? I can go back to this moment and I can say, no, I'm sharing with you. That was an example. I did it. Here it is.
Yeah.
And I can pull from that again.
Wow. That's fascinating. So you did flow
and share. So what more is a podcast right now than me talking off the cuff and sharing? I mean, that's what this is. So you begin to get faster at it. You begin to be faster at identifying the things around you and how they fit into this world.
Do you think you'll ever be the author of a deck oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I'm working on multiple decks. I'm trying to so I don't even call it a tarot deck. To some people, I call it a reflection deck. Okay. Because I'm trying to bridge the gap of the stigma, right? I mean, and I'm not trying to discount, anyone who believes their brand of it, right? If they want to be a tarot reader that, believes it's predictive, their way is just as valid.
Right.
And my stuff, people say my stuff's predictive. They're like, Jeff, you were right. I'm like, well, maybe because you believed in it and it happened. You know what I mean? And so, I have a deck and I call it a reflection deck. And I made this with my business partner, Janet Starr. And so it's 78 cards of mirrored images, and they all have questions on them.
What is the significance of 78?
So 78 is, it's just the Rider-Waite Tarot is the first tarot deck. It's the most, again, everyone has their own opinion. It's the deck that is highly acclaimed, and that is the deck that has 78 cards, where they break it out into different suits. You can dig into that number however you want. You can look into numerology. Does 7 and 8 means something to you? But really, the quick reason is that the traditional tarot deck had 78 cards.
Okay, before we bust into your cards, let me tell you something. And my friend from a long time ago, he saw this too in his own life. But I got into an accident, and it wasn't an accident, but it was an act of aggression on me, and I was hurt really, really bad. And I started a new job like the next week. And every time, no matter how early I woke up and started to walk to work, it was at Long's Bookstore. This is before your time. Have you heard of Long's Bookstore?
From the lore.
It's okay. It was the oldest bookstore for Ohio State.
Okay.
And they demolished it a couple years ago. And now the sign is still hanging on Barnes and Noble, where that used to be up around like Chittenden or whatever. And so I was starting this new job. No matter how early I tried to leave, no matter how early I woke up, I had to be there at 11. but almost every day I would clock in at 11:11.
Oh, I see 11:11 a lot too.
Every day on
I was actually born on the 11th. So, and I see 11:11 all the time.
Every day I see it somehow, whether it's on a receipt, going through. I don't go to Taco Bell that much, but if I get something, it's like I'll be walking through Giant Eagle and there'll be a ham. I just happen to glance down and it's 11:11. I'm like,
so that's really important because you're seeing it. The fact that there is something that you're recognizing in everywhere is what the point of this is too, right? The point of coaching and tarot card and astrology is that you're seeing all of this in your life everywhere. You're integrating with it, right? Yeah. If you're seeing 11:11, it could mean, to me, when I see 11:11, it's just a reminder to open my eyes and to remain curious, right? So if I'm like busy doing something and then my head happens to turn to the clock and I'm like, 11:11 again, right? That's a reminder for me. That archetype serves pay attention.
Okay.
Pay attention.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you hear other people see other numbers and stuff like that, but for me, it's 11:11.
Well, I see that all the time too. So, hey, I mean, born on the 11th, 11:11, I see it all the time myself.
I know there's all these different theories. There's Facebook groups and there's websites dedicated to it. And
it's good. It's a good, interesting read. I will never tell people to never look it up. I mean, I've done so much late night Googling, late night phone calls.
Yeah.
Call people I don't know, say, hey, tell me about this, right? Because I believe that the more I have in my toolkit, the more I grow.
Right. All right. So do you know who, like the ones with the one word, do you know who developed those?
Yes. This is Paige Filiator. She's actually from Marion, but she's lived in Columbus on and off. This is her deck it's called the Black and White deck. I don't think she sells it anymore, actually. But it's something that she made a few of them for a product promotion she had. And at the time, I was like, I need this deck.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because, she doesn't even think about it anymore, but I'm using it all the time for all of my clients. And so that's kind of develops the concept of making a relationship with a deck. And I always say that just means, everything you see in that deck, you're like, I resonate with it. I understand how I can convey that to someone else.
Now, this is a stupid question, but do you ever think too into it where, like, if you flip the card out and it's like a word, but it's upside down?
Oh, the reversed.
Really? Is that a thing?
You're like, oh, that's a big tarot thing. It's huge. It's huge. It's called reversed. So, for example, it's very simple. I mean, it's just a contrast. So, like, that is people, like, big time tarot readers some of them follow reverses, but it's a big concept in the community. So like, if I pulled share and it was reversed or whatever, my first thing would be, where are you not sharing?
Oh, I would have been like
the contrast.
I would have been like, it's like a rash.
Yeah, right. Hey, there you go. So, I mean, it's the opposite.
Wolf.
Hey, right? Wolf.
Yeah. Flow.
What's one more? Transformation.
Uh-oh. That's a hard one. So, wow. So I had no idea that there was a reverse.
I would take some time to do a 5-minute or watch a video.
I will.
Reversed. Yeah. Some people follow it. Some days I do. Right. Yeah. Like if I have a client that comes up to me, he's like, "Oh, it's reversed. What does that mean?" And I'm like, "Okay." Deep down in them somewhere, something is saying it. Why would they point it out? Right. So I'll give them the contrast. I'll say, okay, this card typically represents, home and family. It's reversed. So, is there something in your life right now with home and family that's challenging, or maybe something just went well? I always present both polarities.
So it's crazy because when you messaged me and you said that you had how many decks do you have?
Like 50 to 60 decks.
I thought that they were all the same thing.
No, they were different.
Just different.
All of them are their own author, their own style. So that's where you even get more into it, right? Yeah. So like it's an unlimited world, right? Like I may become an expert. Which
do you think there's any decks that are just blank?
Yeah, there's decks that are absolutely. There are decks that are blank. There are ones that are just colors.
So you flip it over and you're just like, wow, it's again.
I mean, if you have space, well, again, no.
Every day.
There's color. I'd say as basic as it goes would be something like this, which is just a word.
Yeah.
Or there's colors. Or there's decks that don't have any words.
So with that one, Do you just do one a day, or do you play a game where it's like, I'm going to pull out?
So when I give a
4.
reading,
Okay.
when I give a reading with a client, I'll leave these out because I use multiple decks in my readings.
Okay.
So I'm somebody that like, if you know, are you surprised?
No, not
so
really.
exactly.
Now that I know that,
right. And so because again, I may want to pull in another flavor. So I will. Sometimes in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start with 3 cards. Well, sometimes you're shuffling and cards come out. They fall out and you're like, well, you know, do I want to include those? Was that an accidental?
That's a wild card.
Right, exactly. Like this one, you know, this one's kind of stiff. So sometimes I will continue to add cards. But when you're giving a message to people, typically you're like, okay, let's put a bow on it. We're done. And so I may, like, this black and white deck is great because it helps me. It's a single word I can add into anything. So I can kind of mix it in. But typically I'll have a flow. If somebody's coming to me about love, you know, I'll pull out my love decks, and, you know, I may pull out something that has nothing to do with love to just see how they, you know, how they feel with that. Typically my readings range from about, you know, 1 card to, I can go up to 20 if things go, you know, sideways. There's like a world tree spread, which you start at the bottom and talk about the roots, and it's like this tree. Yeah. And so it depends on the situation and the amount of time we have allotted.
Right. Wow. So when you're doing your readings at an event, do you say, okay, you try to allot them like 5 minutes?
I do. I try, but that's why with my like more professional practice, we build a custom package together.
Okay.
Because I believe this work doesn't fit in a box. Mm-hmm. You could come to me and book an hour and be done in 30 minutes. Or you could come most of the time, I mean, because I talk and they talk, it goes longer. So we kind of have a parameter where I'll say, okay, it's kind of a la carte with my services. I'm like, okay, do you want astrology? Do you want tarot? Let's mix them and build an experience for you. It has to be fun. It has to be joyful. I want you to, you know, be able to tell a story. And so it's hard at the fairs. Anyone who's met me at the fairs knows that I'm like, oh God, it's already been 45 minutes.
With one person?
Right. You know, so you're like, okay. And, you know, they want more. So I say, well, you know, I have other people in line here today. Come back, you know.
Now, when you do a fair, is it like, does somebody come up and sign up?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Or are they actually just waiting there?
It's weird sometimes. I mean, I have my little booth. I'm trying to be techie with it. So like, I say, sign up and leave your number and walk away, and I'll send you a text when I'm ready.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't get to them. The fair is a kind of a grab bag because in my coaching practice, I can kind of hand pick people. At the fair, it's like, hey, you're here. I'm open. You know, let's talk.
How much does it cost?
So I'd say for like, it depends what you're doing. If you're doing a tarot or if you're doing astrology.
Yeah,
so
it's just a different.
Yeah, I mean, my custom packages are completely like, sometimes people want, you know, tarot one week, they want a 1-hour Skype call, and then they want, you know, astrology another day. You know,
wow.
So
it's a legitimate.
Oh yeah, my practice is being as custom. I never want you to come buy something and like be like, ooh, I don't know if I wanted that. Like, then don't buy it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very like, if you want to build something with me and you're excited about that and you're excited about my energy, well, let's make magic happen, right? Yeah. Like what, you know? And I have a call on my website. I have a curiosity call, which is a free call. You know, it's a 15-minute. Let's call and chat, see what it's about. I think talk is cheap, and I think
so. It's like a consultation.
Yeah, it's like a consultation, but again, sometimes you get everything you need from a 15-minute call and you may not see each other again. You know, like
it's
that.
It's like my chiropractor.
Right. Right. You know, you're like, hey, exactly, in and out, right?
Yeah.
And I think with this work, my most important practice is that it's approachable.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever be sitting on a pedestal like, oh, well, you must book with me 4 months in advance. I'm sure there's a time and a place where I can have those parameters, but I always want to make sure, because this work is approachable. I'm flipping cards for you. I'm helping you tell a story. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure that somebody who is, you know, a freshman in college, they feel something in them that I can maybe, you know, be there to help them. I feel that approachability of work is really important.
So you literally met me an hour and 25 minutes ago.
Yes.
Do you have me like pegged, or?
So just like with I definitely, I mean, I don't believe in the concept really of being pegged, because I think you change dynamic, right? Like, you're going to be a different person tomorrow than you are today. in my belief system. You're going to
grow.
And
that's just across the board for everybody.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I think there are people that like I can say, okay, they told me their truth was I don't like changing. So like I probably may be able to rely on them to be more of that. Some people are like, I'm in a growth mindset. So they walk out, you're like, see them 3 months later, you're like, you have a cat now? You know, this happened? Oh God. You know, and so I believe a first impression is important, right? Because those are the initial energies I'm getting for you. And I'm deciding, is this person an energy that I want to continue to interact with, right? Like I'm making decisions, but I'm also learning, right? If I walk out of this door and I never see you again and never hear from you again, I still won. I still had a great interaction with a new energy, and I still learned something. And so, yes, I will definitely, you know, I have some category. Everyone's like, Jeff, what categories do you have me in? Everyone is obsessed with that. They love that. Yeah. When really, what I typically do with that is, you know, after a certain amount of years of knowing somebody, I'll gift them it. I'll gift them my spreadsheet of them. And I'll say, hey, this is me. I've learned all of these things about you over the last couple of years. And here you go. Here's my biggest gift I can give you. Because I think the biggest gift you can give somebody is being a mirror.
Right. Yeah. So do you want me to shuffle a deck? Is that what you do?
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, do you want to? I'm not going to ever make you shuffle a deck if you don't want to.
I don't know. Let's, you said that like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. So
yes.
What do you, I mean, I think we should definitely do the one that you.
Yeah. Let's have a I'll let you. I'll pass this over to you.
All right.
And again, this is not the traditional tarot. This is a deck I created.
Okay.
It still has 78 cards because I'm kind of maintaining that. There's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong.
So there's no right or wrong.
Shuffle it. You can move it around. And this is, I love people who are new to it because they're like, what's the rules? I'm like, you've come to me because you didn't really want rules. Like we're here to, and so, you know, right now you're mixing it up. You know, if there's one that you're mixing along the way that you want to pull out, go ahead.
And do what with it?
And just, you can flip it and you know, you can give it back to me or you can put it in a place where we both can see it.
Well, let's just.
Or you can have me pull it.
Yeah, let's just do that since.
Okay, absolutely. Yes, so I will take this back. So now, you know, I like to think that, you know, you had your say in the pot, right? I've at least given you the opportunity to touch the deck. Some tarot readers are like, oh, they can't touch my decks. You know, like they read it.
I also did this.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Get all your vibes on this. Yeah. Actually, when I made this deck, what I did was I went through all my friends on Facebook and I thought of their strongest qualities about them. And when I was making it, I was like, I want that in here. I want to make sure that comes
It's
out.
a bigger deck. It's about was it 5x7 or?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like a picture of a snapshot.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's pretty big. It's decks, you know, different in sizes. Some of them are small. You can do like classic playing card size. You can go bigger. They typically don't get much bigger than this.
Yeah. You just need a big table.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, my table. I mean, it was all the decks. Yeah. So I'm gonna pull one for you.
Move that
move this
that chart off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love.
There you go.
There's your question. Here's your question. Are you love?
Yeah, I am.
And so it's funny because I mean, this is a great, I mean, to me, my most important purpose today at this moment is, you know, I believe the most important thing is to open up somebody to the idea of love, to know that they can fall in love with anything, right? I'm here to help you fall in love with your story, to find a spark again, or maybe to walk away with something that is a little different. And so people forget, and what I tell them is that all of these qualities I talk about, I just went off on, you know, all these different archetypes. You are all of those things, and you are none of them, right? Hold all of them closely when it feels right and let them go when it doesn't serve you. You know, we're here to play and have fun. We're here to make mistakes. And that's my belief. You know, we're here on a big sleepover. So listen to yourself. Recognize that you are love. And it's fun. I just got goosebumps here. Like you can see the hair standing up on my arms here. Right. Because love is so powerful and everyone has such their own definition. And so, you know, I think it's a great card when you're talking about, you know, sharing something, you know, you're sharing something new with me.
Yeah.
But in this moment, you know, I recognize that
that's
whatever
the first card ever drawn for.
Exactly. This is to set the stage.
Okay.
You know, so for you, right, this is the first card in our dynamic, if I even wanted to break it down, that like, I know, I have a feeling that anything that we interact with is going to have a sense of love. It's going to have a sense of fun. And so I also have to recognize, you know, this is asking you, are you love? So what I would say mirroring back to you is, you know, whenever you feel, even if you're feeling great, So when you're feeling great or you're feeling down on yourself or anywhere in between, you know, are you still giving yourself that self-love? I know it's a very simple concept, but, you know, are you casting love onto something else, or are you remembering that you are love? You answered very confidently, right? So that also means to me, dig in deeper to the concept of love, where it may not be as confident, right? You know, maybe parts of yourself or skills or abilities or things that you have where you're like, ooh, I'm still learning, or ooh, you know? And so great reminder, are you love?
Well, I think what's crazy about that is I'm 45, and I think that it's actually kind of a new concept.
Exactly.
To me. So
that's powerful. Let me pull another one.
Yeah, it's odd that it comes up like right now.
Shadow. There you go.
What
you were in a, sorry, I'm like, yeah, of course. I do that all the time to my clients, and they're like, shadow. So you were just talking about how it's a new concept. So before, it was in a place of shadow, right, where you didn't connect with it. You're like, maybe, you may be connected with the shadow side of love, which is, I'm on my own, or I don't know how to absorb, receive love from somebody. Maybe I give love, and am I actually giving love? That whole concept around it. I mean, this is exactly.
Well, I'm definitely in the shadows.
Oh, yeah. And that's also just a valid place to be. So remember, part of love is knowing that if you're in the shadows, that's just as important. That's just as valid, right? Like, your love is not, although human beings want to put words on things.
No, when you flipped that over, was it reversed or was it straight up?
It was straight up.
Okay. All right,
so this, we're not looking in the shadow, because that could be a thing. Hey, you laugh, but people get, I meet with people at different places, right? And I think this is a good takeaway for you to understand. I mean, the fact that you're talking to me that you didn't know, like, that you've progressed in it, shows that there is a place where it wasn't as strong. Maybe, there was a place where you definitely have had a growth arc in it. And that's important, because were you loving yourself all the way? Could you answer I can't predict the past, where the past came from, but like at every point in your journey, was there ever a place where you're like, ooh, I don't know if I'm love, or ooh, I don't know if I'm doing this right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right. And so right now in this moment, it's highlighting that. So what this is saying is, look back at all of those moments that you didn't feel like you were loved. And it looks like you have some work to do there.
No, just not to
go ahead.
Cut you off, but do you think this is actually cool to be public?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have no problems with it, but I'm just like, I don't know. It's sometimes.
Oh no, this is okay.
All right.
Absolutely. And so, and I think recognizing that you had a growth arc on your journey, this is, to me, again, is integration as well. You needed to love yourself on the whole place of the journey, not just where you are now. I see that happen all the time, where they're like, I love who I've become, but I was bad before, or like, I had a rough this. Well, your past self and all of those actions you had was you, sorry, but that also was you. Yeah. And so you needed to bring love to that. And
so is this like a generalized reading? Since we didn't even discuss beforehand, like, what are you kind of looking for or whatever? We just was like, all right, let's do it. You pulled out the card and it was like.
Well, it became specific because I asked you, you kind of went into your relationship with love before. So it starts general and it goes very specific. Everything starts general. So, when shadow came up and we were talking about how it was different before, now it's getting more into it. Okay. So then you may bring something up on like, how did that look for you? How did it look worse? And what dark times where you didn't feel like you weren't loved? Because the question is, are you loved? And then, then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper.
Now, like, also, is this kind of like back and forth right now something that you would experience in a typical session?
Yes.
Okay, so people are always asking you, like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing
With
this?
me, I open that. And I tell them at the beginning of my readings, feel free to cut me off.
Okay.
Ask questions. Again, I'm super untraditional with this work because I believe...
Now, are there people that are like, now just sit there and let me...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. There's some readers who... will flip their 3 cards and they're going to tell you what they mean. And then they'll be like, do you have any questions? And nothing wrong.
No questions,
right.
Please. Just...
right. Nothing wrong with them. Like, that is their style. There's a place in the world for them. My place in the world is that, like, I'm trying to really pull you from.
That's the coach.
Yes. I'm trying to pull you from a place where you don't know any of this. So I'm bringing, I believe on the inside, you're like, okay, you know what love is and you know what a shadow is. So it's not as unapproachable as you think. Right. That's always the first stigma, is like when I pull concepts, like you know these concepts. You deal with them every day. It's just you may not talk about them, which is why it feels a little uncomfortable. But no, I love big back and forth. Why? Because I'm getting something out of it, right? Like I could sit there and do something and give it to you, but if I don't get feedback, I'm like, not like I need it. I still have given you something.
What was I gonna ask? Loved. Oh, so you pulled that love card, then the shadow card. Is now when you are talking and you're explaining this to your client, what are they supposed to take away? Is this something for them to consider or to work on or to to dwell on or what?
I really try to make an informed decision based on, sometimes I'll ask at the beginning of the reading, so why are you here? What's bringing you here? And sometimes that's a good answer. Some people really just want to take themselves away from life for a minute. So maybe this was more entertainment for them. Maybe this was something to think about later and put on the back burner. Some people come with a notebook, right? And they're like, wait, can you say that again?
Some people have a podcast.
Right, exactly. And so I will email after the reading. I will type my own notes, and I'll sometimes send them an email after, and I'll say, hey, we had our reading. Like, you picked up stuff. I picked up stuff. I said things. You said things. But here's more angles. And so really my style is just giving them as much as I can from the experience. And so, it differs. Some people want, like, I have had people like, I want to book with you again. Like, this is our date. Boom. Some people are like, I have my notebook. I don't know how this looks yet.
Where do you do it at?
Where do I do readings?
Is it online? I mean, do you do it over the phone?
Oh, yeah. I'm flexible. So this is 2020.
Do you have an office?
I do. So I can invite people over. I have a flex space that I can get for people. But most of the time with my clients, I trust them all. If they're coming to me, and I usually talk to them on the phone first. In the fair, I can't really, but if they're going to be like a person they want a reading from, I talk to them. And I know in the first 15 minutes, like, do I want my energy around them? Like, do I feel like they're going to be trouble?
Yeah.
And then I just won't do it.
Are you always 100% honest with people?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's it. I mean, honesty, we could go into a whole truth conversation on what truth is. But am I giving you the words that come to me in the moment? That's why I talk a million miles an hour. I don't really have time to kind of filter it out. Yeah. I'm describing to you what I feel like will help your story. And that makes me feel good, because that's the whole point. That's the reason I'm in this work, is because I'm like, wow, Jeff, you just spoke on all these topics to someone you didn't know elegantly. And that person is walking away feeling inspired, heavy, whatever. You changed something. And that's what matters to me. I made something happen. I'm a spark. That's my whole vision is, you may be mad at me. Great. Sorry. You may...
The client?
Yeah. I don't have that. I mean, typically I'm pretty cheery, so it's hard to be mad. I don't typically deal with hostility. But again, I'm ready for it.
Have you ever had somebody be like, you know what, can you redo that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't like that one, so let's do it again.
Yeah, and I will say, like, well... here it is. And it's still it still happened, right? Like, there's a lot of things in your life you don't want and you can erase.
Now, why do you think that when you pulled that first one, it was that? Why do you honestly think that?
Think it was love? Because there's love here.
I know, but so that's why.
I mean, I think multiple things. I can give you like 10. I'll give you a few. One of them is, A, I think there's love here. There's a lot of love here. B, I think this question is... you need to ask yourself. I need to ask you, are you love? I think you need to go and reflect personally on your arc with love. How has your relationship arc been with love from being a small child to now? What are your goals for love, for yourself? How do you feel full with that? I think that's a valid question that this reveals. I also think it was random. I was shuffling the deck and it pulled out. So again, I want you to have multiple parallels. You're simultaneously looking at all the narratives and picking the story that you want in that moment.
Okay.
And typically, people play avoidance. People can be like, well, they pick the story that they want and maybe they're in denial. I don't care. It's all part of your story, right? Like, maybe you needed to be in denial.
Let's do one
more?
Well, from like a different
deck
or
something.
something. Okay.
Did you want this pertaining to this, or did you want just like another energy, another concept to talk about?
What do you think?
Let's put it in a part of this.
Okay.
I'll let you do a shuffle.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Shuffling. What what deck am I holding?
So this is like a moon phase deck. It's also astrology based. So a lot of tarot and astrology actually come together, and people will make astrology decks. So this is what each card will say. It will say like a certain zodiac affiliation, and then it'll also give you one line of something to think about.
What do you think of like palm reading?
Yeah, why not? If you have a meaning in it, like I have a line.
Have you studied it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I know the basics. I know you got a heart line, a head line. You can look at some. I guess maybe I have studied a little bit. Here I'm talking. It all blends together. There's certain parts of your hand that relate to certain planets, right? Like you have a part of Venus on your hand. Like you can map the whole astrology map onto your hand. Do I follow it fully? I mean, if you want to tell me, if somebody's like, look at this line on my hand, and I'm like, okay, what does this mean to you first? And they're saying, I don't know, you tell me. I mean, I'm going to look at it and go, well, I will put something within the experience based on what I know at this time. That's all I can offer. I can only give you where I'm at the journey.
Okay. But that's not something that you focus on.
No.
Yeah.
Coming soon. You never know.
Right.
All right. This one says,
Uh-oh.
New moon. A new start is coming.
Oh my God.
So you kind of, and again,
now, okay, hold on. How many cards does that have in it? 78?
This one's like 58. This is 50. Not 78.
Okay, 58.
Yeah.
How many different cards? Are they all different?
They're all different. Yes.
And they're all part of the astrological.
Yeah. So this one says like new moon. So new moon is like the concept. And if there's a different one that would be full moon in Scorpio.
Okay.
So like it gives you full moon in Scorpio and then it gives you a line with it. So this is just new moon energy. New moons to me represent beginnings of cycles. And this card reflects that, saying a new start is coming. So what would I walk away with if I was with Joyful Jeff today? I'd go, okay, so on my new starts, am I love?
Yeah.
Am I loving what I'm doing? That's a complicated question. Seems easy at some days, different. And when I'm in shadow, when I don't believe I am love, am I still in the game? Am I still believing that I am love? Because, love is the encompassing of all of it. So a new start is coming, a new moon. So what I would reflect back is if you ever wanted to draw energy from this moment again between us, I would pull upon that new moon energy. A new start is coming. How do you feel when you know something new is starting? How do you, are you nervous? Are you like, I don't know how this is going to turn out? Are you having anxiety? Are you like, oh, let's do it. It's going to be great. Who cares what happens, right? Whatever energy, new moons, and a new start is coming reflects you. It could be a new start in love, right? You could be discovering a new love of anything. It could be a hobby. It could be in yourself. Maybe you're discovering a new love in yourself. Whatever this is saying, it's saying a new start is coming. So,
or has came.
Or has just arrived, right? And so what is this saying to me? If I have something, I'll often ask, okay, is there something new you just started? Okay, have you checked in with your love with that? Where have you pushed away and pushed away things, or where have you embraced things? Is there something you can bring closer? Is there something you can push far away? So you can just talk all day. It just never ends, on new moon, something new, and love. I often ask people, I'm like, what gets you fired up? You'll be surprised. There's a lot of people that don't know anymore, right? They're like, well, I like this. And I'm like, wow, you sold me, like what brings you to a place of love? Like what I would ask is what factors of something new make you say, oh, I love it. What is your timeline for love, right? Do you have to have, I have to do it for 2 weeks or get to know this person for a certain amount of time before I can have love?
Yeah.
To me, I believe the second I meet you, I can love you.
Right.
I don't believe that there's a timeline. So this is saying check in with your new start, any feelings you have. This could be a journal. This could be when you're driving in the car. Take your cell phone out and do a voice memo. Start talking about what concepts and feelings come with you when you think of a new start. And a lot of people, for me, when I think of a new start, it's, well, what could it be? Like how big could this be? Like how many services do I want to offer? What kind of people do I want to impact? What kind of money do I want to make? What do I want to give back? So there's so much you can pull from that. And like, again, the first card is are you love? So are you telling that story because that's what you think you should be telling? Or do you actually love the story? And it's okay, because again, shadow came up. So you literally have shadow over here, which is saying, okay, what parts of yourself that come up are you pushing away? Because you're like, oh, that's not love. Like, ooh, that's not love. I need to avoid that. Maybe you need to bring those things a little closer too.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult because you've added so many dynamics to what it could be.
Exactly.
And
it's up to you to. Sometimes people are ready for it and they say, oh, I know exactly what this means for me. Yeah. And it connects.
Well, I mean, at first I did, but then I started thinking about other things. I'm like,
perfect. That's it. I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Because I'm expanding you. I'm saying this applies to that, and your first gut feeling, very important. But now you're like, oh God, it could apply to this or this. Yeah. Now you're doing it. Now you're doing the whole point of why I'm here today. Right. Is I'm trying to expand you. I'm trying to say, there's not one storyline happening. Everyone else is having their storyline at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so now you're beginning to get the power of it. You're like, wait, do I want to take the energy of these cards and apply it to this story or this? And now you're becoming in the driver's seat. Mm-hmm. So now you're understanding what I'm saying. Owning your story is you're owning what is here. You're owning what is in your life, and you're making the matches to whatever feels authentic to you.
Okay. So typically, where would you cut somebody off?
Maybe when my voice gets hoarse. So typically I feel it. You look at them kind of like, humans have attention spans.
Yeah.
So just with this work, like some people, like after an hour, they're like,
I mean, to be honest with you, like that right there seems like it's so open.
Yep.
Do you ever have it to where you're like, okay, bye?
Yeah. I mean, again,
and then they're just like, wait a minute.
I don't
too much.
I usually do some sort of recap. It always is open because a lot of my astrology and the stuff I believe in is opening. I have a more of like an opening up mindset. Sure, I can play details, but I'm really I'm thematic in bringing the story together. That's where I think I'm most powerful. Yeah, I mean, if they whine and say, well, I wanted another card. Well, I mean, either, tell me why. And then we can start another conversation. Okay. It always looks like when the door is shut, you want something else. What does that mean? I'm serious,
no,
right? Every piece of information you give me is important. Mm-hmm. Every thought, word, and action matters. And I strongly believe that. Yeah. It's just what pieces I choose to pick out. And that's on me. I'm going to do what my gut says.
Yeah. Okay. So that is literally like the concept of open to interpretation.
I'd say so.
Okay.
Just like everything else is, right? If you look at law, something that is so defined, right? It's literally spelled out. Why do we think we have lawyers? Because we have thousands of people interpreting that one sentence on paper.
Yeah.
That's life, folks. I tell people, they're like, they want answers. And as humans, you want all the answers because you're afraid. You're like, I need to know an answer because it gives me security to do something or to take an action. I'm trying to help people to step into the unknown. You're not going to know.
So let's do this. Let's leave that the way it's at. I mean, you can move them and put it back.
No, it's perfect.
And then let's do the one that's like, what do you call it? It's like the
oracle, the traditional.
Traditional.
Yeah. The traditional. Okay, sure.
Just because I've never seen somebody do it live before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that might answer more questions for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sure. Some of these. This is a traditional. Both of these are traditional. Decks. They'll have the major arcana and the minor arcana, which you might hear in tarot decks. You'll have you may hear about the Fool or, the Empress. Mm-hmm. So these decks have those archetypes in here.
Death,
absolutely.
How often do you pull death out?
I'd say,
once a week.
I love death. Why would I be? I mean, I think death has a good message. And again, right, we have two decks. These are both traditional tarot, and one of them is a little bit more dreamy.
Yeah,
it's like the Shadowscape deck. So the author is more like, it's kind of what's in the shadows of your life. Where another one's kind of more revealing. Mm-hmm. I'll pull one here.
And so when you studied this stuff, did you was it when you pull certain cards, this means this? Or is it more like when you pull these certain cards, it could mean this?
So one of my best friends in tarot, the Emerald Box Turtle is her brand. She was right next to me in the booth when I did a Columbus show. And she has a little book that she pulls out. It's like this, like, you know, she has this like chest where she holds all of her cards. And then she has this like thick book of notes she takes as she does readings with people to reinforce that archetype for her. So she pretty much goes by that book a little bit, obviously with her own interpretation too. But she is one of those people that says, okay, 7 of Cups. All right, I'm opening it up to 7 of Cups. And she's able to draw upon all her past experiences with it and say, well, 7 of Cups, kind of how it's shown up has been, you know, some topic for her. And so I do a little bit of both. I don't like to defining something in my ego. Defining it too closely is a little scary for me.
Are these 78 cards too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, this is a 78 card deck. And I'm just going to pull one with no rhyme or reason, just kind of a general card to discuss. And I'm going to put it right next to here. So I'm going to kind of just say to myself that whatever I pull here is going to somehow relate with what has already been on the table. Okay. It's not going to be a separate energy. It's going to go right in the spot to complete the 4.
Okay.
So we'll pull one right here, the last one. Did you want to give it a shuffle?
Yes.
Okay. I felt it over there. I was like, all right. That deck slides very nicely. It's one of my favorite decks to describe just kind of shadows, dreams, things we may not always bring to the surface. So we'll see what actually comes to the surface. And I'm actually going to let you draw it because I'm in that mood.
What do I do?
You're just going to pull one that feels right to you. At random, if that's what it says, you can pick any single one of them. Perfect.
It's the top one.
All right, great. Excellent. Thank you. All right. That card we have is the 8 of Wands. So the fun part about the... I know you're like, ooh. Oh my God. So the fun thing about tarot is that it's not just the card type, right? So it's not just the 8 of Wands. It's also the illustration.
It's also the clubs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's also the suit, you know, or whatever it's in. You know, so each of the wands, you know, pentacles, however they're describing it in the deck, usually represents an element. So, you know, wands could represent fire, right? So in your interpretation, you're like, do I have like a fiery flare? When you think of a bonfire, what do you think of? Sparks flying all over, right? So this is a fiery energy. This is the 8 of Wands. And you could also dig into it thinking, okay, what does 8 mean to me? And you're like, well, nothing really. In traditional numerology, 8 is a power number. You know, if you think about the 8th sign in the zodiac, it's Scorpio. So, you know, the 8th sign of Scorpio, you know, kind of dealing with merging relationships, secrets. The occult actually is a good number that goes with 8. Scorpio, what do you mean where is Scorpio?
Like in the calendar.
Oh, it's November, end of October to November. All right. And so it's right after. So I'm a Libra and I'm the 7th, and then Scorpio comes next. It's a water sign. Okay. And so this 8 of Wands here, and I'm actually going to pass this back to you in a second. The most important thing I do when reading tarot from a traditional deck is you have to look at the illustration right here. And so I'm going to hand you this card because there's one thing that jumps out to me right here. And I'm going to pass this over to you so you can look at it while I explain it. So the 8 of Wands here, notice how she's standing there, right? And she's blowing. It's like seeds are blowing away from her, right? Kind of near the top of the card, she has new seeds setting flight. Perfectly resonates with a new start is coming. What this is meaning to me, the 8 of Wands, is obviously putting out your seed, and in a better word, putting out your intention to things, right? So she's kind of, you know, giving flight to ideas, to wishes, to dreams. And so really with the 8 being a power number, with 8 being a number of manifesting, you know, like depth, right? Like this is not just a whimsical dream of something that is, you know, at the top of your mind. This is like a deep rooted, like, no, I have this dream because like I want blood, sweat, and tears over it. It's a very deep energy in terms of your intentions and your wishes. Also, so she has seeds that she's kind of letting go. You can see plants behind her. There's a few foxes in the background. You can interpret the card fully and go, you know, picture by picture each thing and kind of explain it. I typically go, because I bring so many cards, I go to the first thing that jumps out to me, and then I'll compare it with what the Eight of Wands means with me in general. Okay. So this thing right away, she's standing there with her staff, and she's letting things go. She's letting intentions, dreams, who knows what they are. She's letting something go. So what this would say in this reading is a part of this new change start is coming. What are you releasing, right? What has to, when you love something, and maybe when you're releasing shadow, what things do you have to let go to do your dreams, right? You know, sometimes you do have to make a choice. Sometimes you don't. But you really are kind of going through an adjustment period where it's like, okay, I'm letting new things fly. You know, on the bottom of the card, some of those seeds have landed and have grown. So she's in this process of evaluating, okay, what has grown? What do I like? And what else do I need to let go? And I also would prompt you to think about...
Let me see that again.
Yeah. So I always look at faces. So when I'm reading tarot, I look at a few things. I'll look at colors. I'll look at faces, look at facial expressions. I'll look at key identifiers, maybe animals, maybe objects in there that you recognize.
Yeah, see, the first thing that I saw after the seeds flowing were the faces on the tree.
Yes. So that's a great pivot too to discuss. Again, to me, if you think about a tree archetype, right? So it's like branches and you can see the faces in there. It's really kind of deciding what, it's kind of, I keep hearing it's like whispers of the forest. So like who's on your side? What's a sturdy foundation on your side during this? Because she's standing in the tree. She's literally in the tree. So to let her seeds go, she's not on the ground. She's in this tree with faces. So what sort of structure, and it could, what is your strong structure that talks to you, because it has faces, so we'll incorporate that, to help you feel confident to climb to the top of the tree to let your wishes go. So, so you're kind of integrate. So I would ask, again, with any new start coming, you really have to tap in and identify your support systems, right? That's kind of bringing that archetype in there.
You and I interpreted from the picture?
Yes, go ahead.
Was shadow.
This is the Shadowscape deck.
Yeah.
So
there you go. The shadow is also represented in that picture because you have, not a literal shadow, but a figurative shadow, like as in there's the faces that she might not know is there.
You're a natural. Exactly. She has her back. Exactly.
Yeah.
She's looking up, right? She doesn't know that these faces are there.
Right.
So who is talking or who's supporting her? These faces look like they could be having a conversation without her.
Yeah. But there's also behind her a couple sly little foxes.
Foxes to me, exactly. Sly fox, perfect thing to add. Also representing luck. I think foxes are lucky. Okay. Think about a foxy lady, like foxy, there's something flashy, lucky about it. So foxes, they're known for being, like their fur has patterns and they're beautiful, but they're sly. So, again, or as deep as you want to go into it, you just have to be emotionally ready, right? Like I can sit here and talk for hours and hours about these archetypes. And that's a perfect example, right? So the fact that it's resonating with you on faces that somebody may not see, that you may not see, right? In tarot, a big practice that people do is they'll put themselves as the card. So they'll say, okay, if you were the Eight of Wands, if you were this person, how would you feel in that scenario? And so again, if people were talking about you and maybe they were your support system, how would that make you feel? What direction would you take next? Or, maybe you're assuming that these are people talking behind your back, and maybe they're people talking behind your back, but they have your best good in mind.
Right.
And so you really have to kind of balance, and I always try to give both sides of it. You're a natural. I mean, look, you literally...
What do you mean by you say that?
You pulled a card, and instead of sitting there and going, well, I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
I gave you the card. I gave you the power. I said, pull this card. And you found something that resonated with you. That's all life is.
Well, I found something that resonated with me, but that was in tune with those other three cards.
So you had a starting point to go there.
Yeah.
I see.
So I'm like, well, you've got the new moon, you've got love, and you've got shadow. So
now you're able to connect it.
Yeah.
And that may be a good place for for you to start.
I mean, the new moon, like what you gave me was
Correct.
the seeds flowing.
Yes.
Which also goes back to the first card that you pulled of the day. Well, not of the day, but of the evening with me was flow.
Exactly. And so there you go. You actually, I mean, that's the whole point, is you're connecting your story. And I mean, that's winning right there. You're actually able to pull parallel. So again, you know, I tell people if they're beginning with tarot, that's why I started a deck that's very simple, right? Love. All right. Love. And then you have a question. And then we kind of built it in with more complexity as we went. If you were ready for it. Some days you may not want complexity.
Yeah.
Like this, even you having no experience with it, you got this. To your, like, you have to believe that you believe it, right?
Yeah.
But like, you're like, okay, if you walked away and had to summarize, you're like, okay, new beginning, love, you know, shadow, understanding, you know, what is not always in the limelight, and, you know, what could be talking behind me, you know, structural support, new beginning. So you already got a flavor of it.
What do the words 8 of Wands mean?
Yeah, so 8 of Wands, I mean, it's just like if you had a deck of cards with the different suits. Wands is fire.
Okay.
So if you see 8 of Wands, typically in most decks, you can count, they draw 8 wands somewhere in there. And so typically it's the amount. So like in each suit,
yeah,
you know, you'll have the ace, then you'll have the 2, 3, 4, all the way up to the, you know, to 10. And then you'll have the major arcana. So other cards you'll have in here, you know, you'll have the Fool, you know, which is actually not a suited item. It's just, it's a part of the major arcana. You know, and then you'll also have items like you said, the Death card. There's wands. This deck has wands, swords, which is air, pentacles, which is earth, cups, which is water. So you have the 4 elements. And then you know, can pull major cards. Again, you know, you can look at 8 and what 8 means to you. Wands, what kind of fire means to you. But as you work with the deck, you're like, okay, wands, or this author may have a specific feeling towards wands. You're like, okay, wands for them is action. So I need to think about this through an action.
How long have you been doing this?
I'd say since 14. So that's 10 years. I'm 24 today.
So you were in middle school and you're like, man, I'm really into this tarot stuff. So I'm going to.
I wouldn't say that was my direct thought. I said, I'm ready to look at something deeper and have conversation. I felt like I always was constrained in having conversations. I felt like I was in school and like, oh, you couldn't say that, or you couldn't swear.
Did you know anybody that was already doing it?
No.
You sought it out yourself?
Oh, yeah. I think I was just Googling. Like, it started really from astrology, which was kind of, you know, I knew my sign. And all it took was, you know, one kid on a dial-up connection to go, okay, Libra, and then you click on that button, you're like, and then before you know it, you're just like, click, 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 you know, and you get there. And so that's kind of the self-discovery I like people to go on, is to dip into what they feel.
So, okay, so this is something you've been doing for a long time. What is the coaching?
Yeah, so the coaching I combine, so I'm kind of rebranding now, which I'm really excited. So traditionally, I just stuck with this work. When I first went to fairs, I just did tarot and astrology and maybe some numerology. But now I'm like, Jeff, you spend 40 plus hours a week as a software developer, right? You have tech skills. I'm big into virtual reality. I'm big into optimization coaching, which means I help people, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard of the tool called Trello. It's a project management tool to kind of help keep track of your tasks of your life. I'm big on Google Calendar, integrating all of your tech. I'm a techie. So part of my coaching and kind of how it comes together is, we build a custom package together. So that may mean, you know, call support. Maybe you want to call me once a week for a 15-minute call. Maybe you want once a month, you want a Skype call. For some people that I really click with, let's do it in person. Let's go get dinner and let's get into it. Like, let's talk about it. What I really find in all of this is that people, they come to me because they want somebody to help walk with them on some of these serious topics. Sometimes it's light and fun, but they need help going to that space. They're not, like you said, you know, you wouldn't have known what to do without prompted. So I'm prompting you. Right. I'm kind of starting that conversation. And so my coaching packages have been, sure, I'll do tarot and astrology. Maybe I'll do a mix, but I'm now branching into the world of, let's do tarot, astrology, and also some technology coaching.
So is this something that you said you're rebranding. Is it something that you would like to do like full time?
It's a rub because I would say I'm already kind of doing that now because I'm now at the point with my integration of this that if I'm at work and I'm like, oh, hey, do you want me to do a reading with you? I'm building those relationships with people. It's not weird anymore. Like my last job I had, when I brought up and I did tarot cards, everyone's like, Jeff, I love that. Like, can you do my cards? I'm like, sure. Like, let's spend some time looking into that. And so I'm coming out of my shell and finding that it's important to bring it all together. I'm not somebody who likes to say this is going to be my career.
Yeah.
I think my career is going to shift. I'm in software development right now. I may wake up one day and be tired of writing code.
But this is definitely more than a hobby.
Yes. This is something that I take seriously because it applies, just like as you saw with our conversation, every part of life comes into it. So it's kind of like a base spirituality that can help me no matter what I'm doing.
Right.
So it helps if I'm in my relationships. Yeah, let's pull some cards. If I'm at work, let's pull some cards.
So the coaching is like you can do this like for your fairs, and if somebody wants to continue just to pop in like my back with my chiropractor.
Yes.
But if you want the full service, we'll develop something around that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the tarot or the fairs are here's a taste. And I wanted to make sure that I have a taste, that people have a taste to make a decision. Again, I'm not here to sell you anything really. I know that the right people showed up and they've always had. And so the coaching is, how do I really need to support you, right? Like maybe, because I'm learning both ways as well. And so a lot of my clients are friends. I don't really I'm not really in the space because I have a day job. I'm not really attached to the money as much. So like at the end of the day, I really has separated me from going crazy with the pricing and finding something that feels right for our dynamic. Sure, I'll have prices for people that want to, come in and try it out. But I do everything from, like I said, I'm trying to launch virtual reality sessions. I think it's a little out there, but I have my headset and I'm having fun developing with it.
Yeah.
But everything applies. Text support, calls, in person, tarot, astrology, or just life related. It really is just as holistic that's how I want my services to be. And they've been really successful so far.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're super woo-woo-wee, and sometimes they're very practical. They're like, oh crap, like you've been a project manager. Like my life is I'm not getting momentum. Can you help me? Yeah. So I'm really just being myself, right? I'm not chopping it up into different pieces, and I'm showing people the power of that.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite the endeavor. I mean, it's so interesting. I've learned so much just in the last.
That's why we're here. That's why I didn't even question it. I got that comment on Facebook. I got that question. I'm like, yes. You're like, oh, you should check out my page and do this. I clicked. And I was like, okay. Like the fact that you have the pound sign in there for shit. That's exactly what I was like. That's me. If there's one person on brand, like I swear like a sailor in my readings.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is perfect. You're somebody who has a curiosity, who wants to learn. Done. Yeah. I'm here.
Well, originally it was like I was only going to try to talk to artists. And since it was more, in the beginning, it was more just a podcast. So I was going to have them explain what they're showing me. Yeah.
Locking yourself in a box.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, I want to keep that aspect and have it kind of safe and everything. And, it is what it is. But my brother was like, you might want to think about calling it something different. I'm like, nah, I'm already locked in on it.
Right.
For now.
No, that feels exactly. It could change, but you felt good about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great name. I think you're here to like, just show me what you got.
Yeah. I want to learn.
Right.
So whether it's, I want to learn about you or what you're good at or what you're doing, I want to learn about people and what makes them tick.
Exactly. I know no greater joy than that as well. It's a very air sign thing.
Yeah.
Here I go back to the woo woo, but
I have somebody coming in soon who, he's got a page called Booze and Booze.
Hey, there you go.
And it's I'm not too sure exactly what it, but he specializes in haunted Columbus.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Heard about that community.
Yeah. So it's like I'm into that too. I mean, I'm not necessarily a believer.
Right.
But it's the historical aspect of it that intrigues me.
Exactly. And that's Gemini. It's funny now, like I'm in this mode now, Gemini represents curiosity. Mm-hmm. So anytime you can feed your curiosity, you're doing great. Okay. And you feel good about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I leave here today, you're gonna be like, whoa, because you fed your Gemini. There's a part of you that's like, I need to know something totally new. I don't know what's happening with it. You like being that fool, that beginner energy.
Right.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And like I've told myself, like I have a day job too. If I could do this full time, it would be perfect.
Right.
Because doing the editing and everything takes so much time.
Oh, it does.
And I'm like, man. And then I'm also I'm producing other people's shows.
Yep.
And that takes a lot of time. Like I'm here all the time.
Exactly.
And so if this thing, the Show Me Shit Columbus thing, doesn't succeed, I don't.
Right.
Really, I mean, I care, but
exactly.
It's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And that's a good way to look at it. I'd never want that to limit you, right? I want you to believe, but also have your healthy sense of acceptance.
It's
that
like
flow.
My very first episode, podcast-wise, I put a disclaimer in the beginning saying, as long as people still come through the door, I'll continue to do it. If I get tired of it, then I'll stop. And if people just stop coming,
exactly,
then I'll stop doing it.
Right.
But as far as this is episode 6.
Yep. Woohoo!
So it's just
made
started. Yeah. So I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything? What is your website?
Yeah, it's joyfuljeff.com.
That's easy.
It's easy. And so there I've actually have it at a place where you can book appointments online with me. It's all set up. Really, it's about collaboration of, if you want to put something together, build an experience together. I do some stock things, like I can do a tarot and astrology reading with you in person over video and send that to you however you want that to look. But what I get the most joy from is building something with you. Yeah. Let's explore. You have no idea about it, or you consider yourself very, familiar with it. Let's have fun.
Yeah, I think just let me, like, later on we'll talk about something. I'd like for my daughter to meet you.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure, actually, I was thinking about that because before you played the video, she just kind of had that sparkle. That was the first thing I said. I was like, look, you have the same sparkle. Mm-hmm. So I actually, maybe this is why I brought this. I brought a little good luck charm for you in a folder you have.
Cool, yeah.
This is just, I usually give you can just have a folder, but that little charm, it's like a world tree, and it's funny that the tree was kind of the metaphor today about a foundation.
Right.
And so I would want you to just remember that, keep those roots in. And so maybe there's a charm or a deck or something out there. I give people decks all the time because it just takes that.
What's a good site to look at decks?
Amazon.
Oh, really?
I mean, you really can just go, because all the big authors are on Amazon anyways.
They just sell their stuff from there.
You can get it. Yeah. And so really we have nice places here in Columbus. So, staying local, we have Pearls of Wisdom on High Street. And they have a great tarot collection. Lots of metaphysical things there if you want to get started. They can start you with a little box and a mat and many good decks to start with. Wow. So we have lots of metaphysical stores in Columbus and lots of online sellers. So super low price point to get in. Spend $20. Barnes & Noble even sells tarot decks. So you just, go to the back.
I've seen them there.
Yeah. So, they have them there. So
I've always thought that they were all the same thing, though.
No, they're all.
That's crazy.
As you see here, they're all a little different for you.
I mean, I really like that. That's crazy.
And it fits, right? Some people, like, I use multiple decks. I brought, before I came, and I was like, okay, what decks am I bringing for the podcast?
I can just imagine, you're like, man, what am I going to do? I don't know this guy.
I know, exactly. And so I brought the decks that
stuck out to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I showed up and did my thing, and that's all I would want you to do.
So other than the coaching, what's next for you?
What's next? So
you got the music. We never really talked about that.
We do, yeah. So I do a lot. I care about the community and community activism, right? So I'm president of Scarlet and Gay at Ohio State.
Right.
So we raised $23,000 last year for LGBT scholarships.
What is Scarlet and Gay?
It's an alumni society through Ohio State for members identifying in that community.
Okay.
Also for allies, right? We have allies on the board as well. So it's a way to keep alumni engaged with the gay community, also with students. Again, I'm assistant director of the Clintonville Community Band. We're not in session right now due to all that's going on, but we play throughout the year. What's next? I'm kind of focusing on a lot. I'm working on more relaunching my YouTube channel. So I started way back in 2016. So I got like 1,000 subscribers really fast, and I was like, I'm in school. I can't keep up with the editing and all that stuff. So
it's hard, man.
It's
so hard.
It is. So right now I'm my relaunch for my YouTube channel. It's still out there. You can find Joyful Jeff out there. I took most things down, but Joyful Jeff is out there for the YouTube channel. So I'll be working on that and continuing in my career. So I'm developing tech skills, kind of my day job. I do enjoy that contrast. And then taking this to a bigger level, attending more events. My website's cleaned up now, so people can go and book readings with me.
Awesome. Check it out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's still bare bones, but it's ready. You can figure out something in there.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was talking with Kent, my last guest, and he's an artist, and he has a website. I have a website.
Yep.
It is so hard.
It is. WordPress has been what I use.
The discipline is key for that.
And that's why I personally believe I like my day job, because that contrast keeps me motivated. Yeah. People are like, Jeff, you could do this full time. And I'm like, yeah, maybe one day. But with all the thought I put towards it, if like I'm going to go home, like, okay, I need to lay in my bed. Like it's already full-time energy, right? And there's actually, what's the best part is I do this stuff. Like my role I'm going into is like agile coaching. So I'm organizational coaching. Yeah. So I'm actually doing coaching, leaning towards in tech, coaching big enterprises on how to work collaborative teams. And so I use this stuff. It all connects. Yeah. So I know it's converging to a point, and the biggest thing I can do to myself is stay open and continue to meet new people.
Did you ever worry that you meet somebody at work that just doesn't, I mean, you probably already have, that are just like, just stop with this stuff.
Yep.
Dude.
I work in corporate America where, a top Fortune 100 company.
You could probably sniff those people out right away, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, it falls away. When you become yourself and you have a good support system and you have people you love and you open up, those people kind of fall away. Yes, it hurts. I'm never going to say it never. Like when somebody looks at me and they're like, ooh, what are you doing? Like that hurts. Yeah. Of course it does. Right. But you get up so much faster because you have good people with you. Right. And so that's the name of the game. I'm not like on my meetings like, ooh, I'm pulling a card for you guys. I put it in when it's appropriate. Yeah. Like I may be on a one-on-one with somebody.
Isn't it kind of nice though to say that aspect of your life is the difficult part versus other aspects of your life?
Oh, absolutely.
There's been people that have come before you that have lived similar lives that paid dearly for it. And now you're okay to be who you are.
Oh, absolutely. And that, you got to pay it forward all the time. Bring people with you. I grew up, my dad died when I was 14 years old. Both parents were big alcoholics. Yeah. So I grew up super independent. My dad kind of had a style growing up of like, well, come home if you want, And so I developed that sense of independence really fast. My sister was kind of that mother, father, aunt, uncle, all in one. And so I learned that, you got to pave your own path. I remember getting my first job at 14. I was completely independent at age 16. Like I was done. Like, no one really provided for me. I kind of provided for myself and with people that also were in my network, Right. And so there's a point of joy where I still feel like...
You were following the cards, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, the cards will laugh at me, too. Yeah. Right? I know if, it depends. If I'm in that mood, I'll pull something and it's like, well, shouldn't have made that decision, but it's okay. I don't believe in making good decisions. I believe in making decisions good. Right. You just kind of have to go with the punches. Yeah. Cards are here, charts are here, and ultimately love is here. As long as you believe the love is here and that you keep having good conversations, life is not always full of love all the time, right? You're going to encounter people, right? You're going to encounter people who are going to challenge you. You're going to encounter people who will abuse power dynamics. And in those moments, it's even closer, it's more important than ever to reconnect with yourself, which is why this work's important. Reconnect with yourself and reconnect with those around you. Because there's always more stuff out there. There's almost 8 billion human beings in the world. Yeah. Do your communities out there. They are. You have to take ownership to look for them. And the rest kind of fills in and you tell your story how you want.
Right. I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, joyfuljeff.com.
That's me, yes.
All right, man.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
You've been listening to a Focal Point podcast for the Focal Point Cinema and Sound Company.